Good news, if you can't become a grandmaster, you can become a Grob master and tell everyone that you are a GM. Now, you do that by practicing the Grob Opening, pawn to g4, which is one of the most disrespectful openings in chess. Feels like a beginner's mistake or a trolling attempt, but in reality, it is actually a super tricky opening, and you'll see why in a second. Now, objectively it's not good, but in Blitz it can bring great results because there are traps literally at every turn. In most cases, your opponents are going to respond with pawn to d5, targeting these pawns straight away. And then you pretend like you keep playing dumb chess and you play bishop g2, just giving up the pawn. Your deep strategic idea is that you pretend like this bishop on g2 is a tall pawn, and for some time your opponent may not realize that there is danger coming from that side of the board. And as you play something like c4, attacking this pawn, he feels like you just keep giving up pawns and happily grabs this pawn on c4. Then your bishop all of a sudden jumps out of its ambush, captures this pawn on b7, and then the rook, and wins the game. So things like that happens in the Grob Opening all the time. By the way, after knight to d7, you could capture the rook. That is certainly a playable option. However, in this case, black actually has some compensation because in this position, your king side is a little bit compromised, which is still playable for white, but I prefer another approach. Instead of capturing the rook, I usually play pawn h3, which keeps both these pieces under the attack. At this point, your opponents will usually think, hey, I can play rook b8 and counter the bishop, and they think like they found a smart solution out of the problem. But in reality, after we trade bishops, there are a couple nice things. First of all, your pawn on g4 reincarnated, therefore he could not get rid of this Grob pawn on g4. And secondly, you opened up this file for your rook. Also, this pawn is always annoying because as soon as your opponent tries to bring the knight out, you'll always play g5 and kick it out. And therefore, here you've got actually objectively a good position. So you go knight a3, and this time you want to get back this pawn, and after that, you may even have some positional advantage, as strange as it sounds for the Grob Opening. Like there was actually a really cool game where black played knight e5, trying to defend this pawn, but white captured it anyways, because we just play this disrespectful chess. We always ignore our opponent. But the reality is, if the knight is accepted, then I would continue with queen a4, and that would be a double attack. Like, let me play it out like this. And thanks to this double attack, you actually get back your piece and you won a pawn along the way. But in the actual game, black found a counter strike, queen d5. And it feels like he's winning the game. And so white said, okay, I'm giving up my rook. Now queen takes h1, feels like black is winning the game. He's attacking the rook, this knight, and he grabbed the rook. However, white played queen a4, getting into this sudden counter attack. Now the king can't move. That would lead to queen to d7 checkmate. We've got this knight here that supports this attack. Therefore, black played c6. And now notice that this queen from h1 is doing a good job guarding the pawn, therefore we can't take it straight away. So white played another bold move, pawn e4, blocking out this diagonal, even though it allows black to capture the knight on g1 and put the white king in check, so the king has to move. But now, though black is up a rook, and it feels like he totally destroyed white's position, but now they have to deal with this threat somehow, and it turns out that the king does not have any defenders, and the queen got stuck there deep into white's position and can't easily return back. Now, in the game, black couldn't find what to do. He played pawn f6, but that failed to queen to c6 check, followed by this brilliant knight to f7 checkmate. Now, this game was really spectacular, but of course, not very likely to occur. Now, let me show you something that usually happens when you play the Grob Opening. By the way, it's named after Henry Grob, who was the two-time Swiss champion. And I suppose that Grob means rough in German. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. If there are any German guys, let me know in comments below if that's true. Another fun fact is that in Russian, Grob means a coffin. So either way, quite a terrifying opening. Still, they go pawn d5, hitting this pawn. You continue with your bishop g2 thing, gambit this pawn, and then play c4. Now we already know that we actually aim to open up the diagonal for our bishop. And if they try to defend it somehow, let's say they go on e6 or the other pawn, then we usually continue with queen to b3. That is one of the main attacking ideas here in the Grob Opening. And from here, the queen adds more attack to this pawn on d5, but also hits this pawn on b7. And together with our bishop from g2, that creates quite an unpleasant pressure. Usually your opponents won't be able to figure out what to do. They play something like pawn b6, just getting this pawn out of danger, but that is pretty bad because now after they straight, we open up this diagonal and they're in trouble. For example, after this straight, now bishop takes d5, hitting the rook, but if they try to cover it, this time they overlook that there is also a battery along this diagonal. We're checking the king. On the next move, we're winning the knight right here, threatening something like queen b4 or queen f7 on the next move, and black is totally devastated within just a couple of moves. Another fun variation here, which is also very popular, is when black guards this pawn by going queen to c8, but then of course it fails to the same thing. After the trade, bishop takes d5. This time we're attacking both the pawns on f7 and b7. And if they try to cover, they think, oh, I'm kind of offering this exchange, so maybe I'm still in the game. But now queen takes b7 and we're going after the rook, and they still lose. Bishop d5 is what they play, overlooking that you're not going to grab the bishop. You're going to go here and win the game. There's also another hilarious variation here. The best move by black here is actually pawn to c6, trying to block this diagonal for the bishop so that you can't destroy black there. And then white played pawn h3. Now that's also one of the moves that always captures your opponents by surprise, just because they expect you to react, but you just play this counter move. And your idea is you want to drag the bishop out of this diagonal so that it does not guard the pawn on e6 after the trade, if the bishop comes there. But if the bishop comes to f5, white just played knight c3, surprisingly still leaving the pawn undefended, and after this, they just sack the knight on d5. It turned out that they're willing to even sacrifice a knight just to get to the same position where bishop here attacks these two pawns, just because, it's really winning for white. Therefore, in the game, black did not take the knight. He said, you know what, let me just play bishop e6. I'm pinning this knight so it can't run away, and then I'm going to capture it. But white countered this pin by his own counter pin and played queen a4. He said, okay, I'm getting out of your pin, and I'm pinning your pawn instead. Now I played b5 to kick this out, and now it looks like white is about to lose the game because he can't guard both his pieces, but he played queen c2, and it turned out that this time he's pinning the pawn along this file. Still, after the trade, which is possible, white trades on c8, and we have this spectacular position where after 11 moves in the game, black somehow have this perfect initial setup of his pieces, and our tall pawn wins the game. Remember, our tall pawn is standing in an ambush pretending to be a pawn, but in reality it's a bishop. And after bishop takes d5, they can't save the rook, and we gain a winning material advantage. And I know somebody will write in comments like, this will never happen in my games, my opponents will never play like this. We're not machines, we're not supposed to just memorize moves and then repeat them while playing. Like, the main idea is to get this general idea of the Grob opening, that you've got this strong bishop down this diagonal, and it strikes out in many of these lines, and together with the queen you put pressure down these two diagonals. So that is the main idea. And if you want to know how to find attacking moves on your own, I've got a dedicated free masterclass about that you can attend by clicking the link below the video in the description, so you can know the right way of thinking, the right process of thinking, so you can find proper moves even if your opponent played something else that we didn't analyze together. And here is the main trap of the Grob opening, which you are very likely to use in a number of your games. After c4, if your opponent noticed the pressure down this diagonal, they're going to play pawn c6 trying to block this diagonal. And then you trade on d5 and you play knight c3, attacking this pawn for the second time. And here's the trick. The move which feels to be the most solid for them to play pawn e6 actually is a losing error due to queen, this time not b3 but queen a4, and that is a double attack to the king and bishop. Therefore, you're going to get your revenge and get this bishop on g4, which dared to capture your Grob pawn on g4. Now, of course, the game goes on after that, but you'll be up a bishop and you keep attacking. Now, instead of e6, certainly it's better for black to play knight f6. From here, the knight not only guards this pawn, but also the bishop, making it impossible for you to use the trick we talked about before. In this case, you play the standard attacking move queen b3, adding one more attack to this pawn on d5, but also to the pawn on b7. And so knight takes d5 now is a threat. The correct move for them here would be pawn e6. Again, many of them would not play it. Many of them would play something like, queen b6 or some other inferior moves. But if they allow you to capture on d5, then you have no problems. You just got back your pawn and you keep attacking So you've got a perfect game there. So e6 is the correct way for them. In this case, this pawn is now indeed defended. There's nothing you can do there. And then you have to capture this other pawn on b7 and you attack the rook, but it's not a big problem for them because they can play knight to d7. And at this point, you are at the crossroad, depending on how tricky you want to be. If you just want to play normal chess, then you play something like pawn d4 and you end up with this more or less normal position. Like, yes, your kingside is weakened, but it is playable. If you want to be trickier, you can play knight b5, which is a hasty attack. Objectively speaking, it's not good, but most of your opponents won't be able to find the right solution and they will go down. The threat is knight to c7, forking the king and rook. Therefore, they're going to play rook to c8, covering this square. But now you play knight takes a7, and your playful pony keeps harassing your opponent. We're still attacking the rook. They play rook a7, attacking your pieces, therefore you go queen a6 to keep guarding the knight. And at this point, most of your opponents will notice, hey, this knight on a7 is actually deep into my territory, and I can play queen e8, and thanks to this pin, I'm just winning this knight. That's what they're hoping for, but in reality, it is a losing mistake, because your knight keeps horsing around, messing up his position, and you go knight b5. You kinda blunder a queen, but in reality, after queen takes a6, you play probably the strongest move ever in chess, where in one move, you attack and capture the rook, the king, and the queen in one move. Like, literally play knight takes c7, the most devastating move in chess history, and you win the game, because at the end of the day, here you are up a rook and a pawn, which hopefully will be enough to win because it's a pretty simple endgame position. Sometimes people say, oh, this Grob is really bad, like just shouldn't fall for this main trap with d5, and where white starts to put pressure there. Just play any other move by black and you'll be easily winning. Well, it's not that simple, because the other problem that black faces here is that, let's say they go e5, they don't touch the d-pawn. You go bishop g2, still pursuing similar ideas. In case they go d5, you can return back to your c4 plan. But what if they just play knight f6 and say, okay, I'm going to attack your pawn this way? Well, as soon as they bring the knight out, the problem is you can play g5 and kick the knight away. And this is a little bit annoying. Moreover, your bishop controls these two squares, so where can the knight go? If it goes here to g4, then strangely enough, after h3, the knight is trapped. And your Grob pawn on g5 actually is doing a good job controlling those two other squares. So here you just capture this knight. If instead the knight comes to h5, there is one idea which I really want to share with you. In the Grob opening, basically you never want to move this pawn forward, usually to e4, because that would lock your bishop, and that would be a bad idea. Therefore, in the Grob opening, you either play c4 in case your opponent's got his bishop, his pawn there, then you can play c4 and strike along this diagonal, as we discussed earlier. And if for some reason c4 is not an option, then you should usually switch to d4. That's the move that you play. And if you don't play that move, like, yeah, oftentimes your position is just bad. But d4 often is what allows you to stay in the game. Like, d4 strikes in the center. Also, it opens up the bishop. And notice that we guarded this pawn on g5, because your opponent will attack it by his queen. But now things are good. And if your opponent captures this pawn on d4, in this case you've got something really powerful to play, but just in case, let's say this trick is unavailable for whatever reason, you could either just take this pawn by the queen, that's one option, or the other option, if you don't want to expose your queen, is to bring the knight out and then to capture it with the knight. That is also still playable, and after that, it remains to be a very complex position, but it's playable. So, like, you just avoid being, like, totally ruined, by playing Grob opening if your opponent doesn't fall for one of the traps. Anyway, in this position, he actually did fall for one of your traps. That is bishop to f3, and we still take advantage of the fact that the knight has nowhere to go. Our bishop controls this square, and now we're attacking it. So they have to play this awkward move pawn to g6, but now after the trade, their kingside is devastated. And now queen takes d4 not only snatches a pawn, but also hits the rook. And after rook to g8, you can get really gritty, and you can play queen e4 and just capture pretty much everything around his kingside. We're also attacking the rook. If the rook moves, you can even play pawn g6. And who would have thought that your g4 pawn would be able to almost be promoted within the next couple moves? That is insane. It just goes to show how tricky the opening is. And if black captures, then their king is exposed, and in the next moves, they're probably going to be in trouble, if you just keep attacking them, and white is totally winning. I still feel guilty for showing you this little bit tricky, shady stuff. Therefore, if you want to learn good chess, proper positional chess, check out my free masterclass by clicking the link below the video in the description. And if you want to learn my favorite rule to play aggressive chess, check out that video right there.